In Afghanistan, the now ruling radical Islamist Taliban are expected to form a new government as early as today. While the group is under international scrutiny over its vow to rule with greater tolerance, there's also questions of funding. How are they going to financially support themselves and a country that until now has largely been kept afloat by foreign aid? Here's what we know so far.
Where does the Taliban's money come from? The United Nations says most of it comes from criminal activities, the drug trade, extortion, human trafficking, prostitution, as well as the mining of resources and tax revenue from areas the terror group controls. The UN Security Council estimates that in 2020, the Taliban earned $460 million in the opium trade alone. That would account for a major part of their total revenue, estimated between $300 million and $1.6 billion. But other revenue streams have become more important in recent years. The Taliban take a 10% cut from legally grown farm produce, as well as profits from businesses and stores. They also charge tolls at road checkpoints, often resorting to violence. Another key source of revenue is donations from countries such as Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, as well as private donors and foundations. Afghanistan is estimated to hold natural resources worth more than $1 trillion, including lithium, copper, aluminum, gold, and rare earths. China, Russia, and Turkey are interested in mining rights, but want to see a more stable political environment. Economists doubt the Taliban can build up a solid economy. Afghanistan has long depended on financial assistance. In 2020, foreign aid accounted for 43% of the country's GDP. Many countries, including Germany, said they will halt further payments. Complicating the situation is the Taliban's lack of access to Afghanistan's reserves of around $9.5 billion in the U.S. The money is currently frozen.
For more, let's bring in journalist and author Emran Feroz, who has been reporting extensively on Afghanistan. Welcome to DW. As many experts are projecting a sharp downturn for the Afghan economy, which is the most important revenue stream for the Taliban right now?
Well, the thing is, what we have with the Taliban, the main problem is that they are still getting used of being an insurgent group, and now they have to act like a state because they're governing. And all the streams they had, all the ones that you mentioned a few seconds ago, they will not be enough to hold Afghanistan stable. And for that reason, they need to be more professional. And I think they're very well aware that Afghanistan still will be dependent of foreign aid. And for that reason, they have to find a proper way to handle it. But unfortunately, it seems that they will not have all the expertise because they just declared that the new head of the central bank is a guy, of course, one of their group, but he seems to be more of a religious cleric than an economic expert. And for that reason, they have to find other experts amongst Afghans who are not amongst the Taliban, of course.
So, of course, knowledge of monetary policy is always helpful. How big a role are donations from countries like Pakistan or Saudi Arabia playing? And what do those countries intend by financially supporting the Taliban?
Yeah, the thing is, we don't know exactly how many millions we are talking here. I think that a lot of them are private donors. And of course, the Taliban themselves, is also their leadership, parts of them, they became businessmen during the last 2 decades. For example, the former head of the Taliban who was killed, Mullah Akhtar Mohammad Mansour, he was also a businessman. And a lot of the Taliban leaders in Qatar also somehow became businessmen. But all of this will not be enough because, as I said, they used to be an insurgent group, and the states or private donors that funded them as an insurgents group. But now they have to lead the Afghan state. So all of that, all the money they got in the past will not be enough to feed a country of 30 million people.
Foreign governments are saying they will be talking to the Taliban as they are in control of Afghanistan now. Will foreign companies and investors as well?
I think they will. I think also foreign governments will. And investors, of course, because it's about business. And I think that after 20 years of war, they came to the conclusion that the Taliban are part of the political reality of Afghanistan and that they are now the ones who are in power. I think it would be very disastrous if foreign countries start to sanction Afghanistan because of the new Taliban regime, because obviously the total majority of the people would suffer, and it would be wrong to suffer Afghans in the collective.
Journalist Emran Feroz, thank you for your thoughts.
You're welcome.
And staying in Afghanistan, Western Union, the world's largest money transfer service, was set to resume wires to the country after getting a green light from the US Treasury. That's good news for Afghans with family overseas. Others are finding cash difficult to come by. And that could be just one of the problems for the Taliban.
The lines outside the banks are long, and too often there's no money at the end of them. But signs of change. Kabul's largest currency exchange market resumes operations next Saturday, after intense haggling with the central bank. The Taliban have ordered private banks to be reopened too, although limits on withdrawals and other restrictions are hampering the process. We shared all the problems we had with the private banks and the suggestions we had with the head of the Central Bank of Afghanistan, the problems we had, say, with the bank accounts. And we told him that 60 to 70% of the money changers' money should be processed through private banks. If we can open the market, we could solve the problems. Sharmila Hashimi, an Afghan living in Berlin, is trying to send money home to her family in Kabul. She describes a grim situation.
On the thousands of people outside of the bank were like shouting, "Or my money, I need my money." And it was very, very clear if they open the door, if any of this colleague come out, for sure all these 1,000 people go to him on to kill them, because they think these people don't want to give our money, or we need anywhere. That was a very bad day.
Even before the Taliban's power grab, Afghanistan's economy struggled. But the rise of the Taliban has been a shock. 40% of the economy was reliant on foreign donors, but overseas aid has stopped. Security is deteriorating, and the country is facing its worst drought in decades. The price of flour, oil and rice, as well as fuel, has been rising every day. Western Union, the world's largest money transfer firm, can start making wire transfers of money from overseas again. Overseas remittances make up 4% of the Afghan GDP. The Taliban say they will rely primarily on financing from China to rebuild the economy. Beijing seems willing to back the Taliban, but even China is unlikely to invest too heavily until it sees proof of stability.